So Alexis Sanchez admits that he regrets the move to Manchester United. Do we feel sorry for him? Hello, I'm Richard and welcome back to my channel over and over again, which features everything to do with Arsenal. Now in this video I just really want to look at these quotes that's come out from Alexis Sanchez about his move from Arsenal to Manchester United and how he regrets it and how he wished he could have maybe ripped up his contract and gone back. Just before I get into all of that, I just really want to make sure that you're subscribing to the channel. If you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up as well. If you're new here, what I'm trying to do I want this to be a lot more of a positive channel. It does seem to be a lot of negativity around with Arsenal fans, and you know, if that's what you like, that's fine. There's loads of channels out there for you to enjoy, but I'm trying to give something a little bit different, a little bit more of a positive spin on things, and maybe to try and add a little bit of perspective maybe to all the doom and gloom that sometimes seems to attach itself to the club. So if this is something that you might enjoy and you think you might enjoy, I say please subscribe, and this is the sort of stuff that I'm doing. So Alexis Sanchez then, I mean, what do we make of that? I'm assuming that he's not going to get a lot of sympathy, is he, from the Arsenal fans. What he's basically said, for those of you that haven't seen it, that after his first training session at Manchester United, he realised that there were problems at the club, and he wanted, when he got home, he basically said he wanted to rip his contract up and go back to Arsenal. Unfortunately, this can happen when you maybe make decisions based on money and greed rather than what might be best for your football career, and unfortunately that's what he did, and he's regretted that. As I say, there won't be a lot of sympathy probably from Arsenal fans. Me personally, I will always have a soft spot for Alexis, just because of what a brilliant player for us he was. Just fantastic, wasn't he? Some of the goals that he scored, the work rate that he gave, he was a 100% player, wasn't he, every single game, and he just had so much quality. Now for me, he's probably the best player that we've had since Robin van Persie. He's probably even, for me, he's probably actually even better than Robin van Persie was, just because I just felt he had everything, didn't he? He had strength, he had pace, he could fight, he had skill, he had subtlety, he could score goals, all different sort of goals as well, headed goals, you know, volleys, solo goals, everything, and he just had everything. To me, he was one of the greatest players I think I've ever seen play for Arsenal, actually, in 40 odd years I've been going. So I just loved the guy, and it was a shame the way that it all ended. Now, his last season with Arsenal, if you remember, 2016-2017, he was just phenomenal, wasn't he? He scored 30 goals that season and he was just brilliant. There were so many games where it was almost, you know, you always felt, I always felt certainly, that whenever Alexis was in the team, no matter how badly that we were playing or no matter what was happening in the game, we could always get a result because he could produce something out of nothing. He was one of them players, wasn't he, that you knew that you always had a chance while he was on the pitch, and that season in particular he was just unbelievable, wasn't he? If you remember, he scored the winner in the FA Cup semi-final against Manchester City, he scored in the final against Chelsea, and at times he was unplayable, and also as well, I've personally felt that in those 3 seasons he was at Arsenal, he really brought the best out of Mesut Ozil as well. Those two seem to have a really good understanding. And it's no surprise that since Alexis left Arsenal, that both of their careers have suffered actually as a result of them not playing together. Because I really do feel as though that they just had a special kind of bond, I feel. There was a game, wasn't there, against Chelsea, do you remember, when the year Chelsea won the league in 2017, when we played them at the Emirates early in the season. We beat them 3-0, and Alexis and Ozil were just brilliant that day. They absolutely destroyed Chelsea. And they did that quite often. If you remember the game against Manchester United the year before at the Emirates, again we won 3-0. Those two again were absolutely brilliant. And this was a recurring theme over the 3 year seasons that Alexis played for us. They just seem to just really work well together. One thing that I remember personally that really sticks in my mind was a couple of weeks before the 2017 FA Cup final, we played away at Stoke. Now obviously anyone who knows anything about that would know that Stoke is a traditionally difficult ground for us. We don't generally do very well there. And this game, I just remember an incident in the second half where Sanchez got the ball, he had the ball, probably 40 yards from goal. Ozil made a run. Sanchez picked him out and Ozil finished it, and just that understanding, you could see it there. Ozil would make runs maybe more when Sanchez had the ball, and Sanchez would make certain runs when Ozil had the ball, and they just seemed to combine really well. And unfortunately, I say that they've both maybe suffered from not playing together, I feel, and both clubs have maybe suffered as well a little bit. So what happened was, of course, at the end of that 2016-2017 season, Alexis basically decided that he wasn't going to renew his contract. He wanted a better deal, and he wanted to get a better deal elsewhere. Now, if you remember, Manchester City were the favourites to sign him actually in that summer 2017, but for one reason or another, the deal didn't go through in time before the end of the transfer window, and Alexis was, unfortunately for him, stuck at Arsenal, and in a way maybe unfortunately for us as well, because he was clearly unsettled. His head wasn't in it, his heart wasn't in it, and you could tell by his performances in the early part of that season were not the same. He wasn't the same player, was he? And then oddly enough, with the January transfer window coming up, suddenly he decided to put a bit more effort in again, and he produced some good performances, didn't he, towards the sort of turn of the year. There was that game at Crystal Palace, if you remember, December 2017, where he was absolutely brilliant, wasn't he? He scored 2 goals when we won 3-2. And then, of course, the January transfer window opened, and again, Man City looked favourites to sign him, but again, maybe his wage demands were too high. If they were too high for Man City, what chance did we have of getting a new deal out of him? Anyway, you've got to look at it like that, haven't you? So Man City pulled out, and basically he was left with an offer from Manchester United. It was quite a rushed deal, and Alexis has now admitted that himself. He said it was, one of his quotes was that it was really, really tempting for him, because he'd always admired Manchester United when he was a kid. As I mean, a lot of kids from all over the world admire Manchester United, don't they, because of all the success that they'd had. So Alexis has said that he eventually agreed, but he didn't really ask for information about what was happening inside the club. Now, I'm a little bit confused by that, because Jose Mourinho was the Manchester United manager at the time. Anyone who follows football and has done over the last few years will be aware that wherever Jose Mourinho goes, there tends to be problems that follow. I'm sure Alexis Sanchez must have known that the potential for problems with Jose Mourinho as the manager were probably quite high. So I don't know how much more information he would have needed to have figured that out. But anyway, he says he didn't know, and that was that. And he said, of course, the famous bit of his quote, isn't it, when after his first training session, he went home and wanted to rip his contract up and come back to Arsenal. So it was quite clear, wasn't it, I suppose, that he wasn't happy at Manchester United. I can remember at the time, looking at him and thinking, he's not the same player that we had. He just didn't look the same at all, did he? His head wasn't in it, his heart wasn't in it, and you could just tell he was almost going through the motions a bit at Manchester United, wasn't he? And I personally felt a little bit sad about that, because Sanchez had always been a player who had that drive in him, didn't he? And that seemed to have gone. And I watched him play a couple of times for Manchester United, and I did feel sad, actually, and I felt a bit sorry for him, which I know is probably rare. Most Arsenal fans probably don't, but I kind of did, really. I don't like to see quality players like that who have maybe had a big impact at our club then clearly become unhappy, because I just don't like to see that, really, and I did feel a bit sorry for him, actually. In the end, of course, it never worked out for him at Manchester United, like it was never going to, was it? He only made 45 appearances for them and scored 5 goals. Really disappointing. He was left out of the team a lot in the end, wasn't he? And of course, last season the last season that's just finished, he spent on loan at Inter Milan, of course. He did play in the Europa League final for them, where of course they did lose. He only scored 4 goals in 32 games for them, so his career's definitely gone downhill. When you think that he scored his Arsenal career, 3.5 years, he played 166 games for Arsenal and scored 80 goals. Absolutely brilliant return. And when you look at since then, he's played less than 100 games since he left and only scored 9 goals since he's left Arsenal. So in nearly 90 games. So he's gone from 1 in 2 to 1 in 10. So that shows you know, what's happened to his career really. And sometimes I suppose the lesson there is maybe don't chase the money always. Of course, Sanchez leaving the club did open up the issue with the Mesut Ozil contract as well, didn't it? And I know a lot of people have sort of said that we should have maybe offered that money to Sanchez instead. Would it have been enough anyway? We don't know. But I feel that what happened was, having lost Sanchez, the club would then almost panicked into keeping Mesut Ozil because they couldn't really afford to lose the two best players at the time, or the two high-profile players at the time. So they maybe felt a little bit panicked and rushed into offering Mesut Ozil the contract just to keep him, which is strange because they probably did that in a way to help appease the fans, which is of course in the end had the opposite effect. But I do feel as though the club was in a no-win situation, because if they'd let Mesut Ozil go as well, say at the end of that season, then the fans would have been saying, well, we can't keep our best players, no one wants to play for Arsenal, all the best players leave, and that would have been the criticism the club would have got. But of course, having given Mesut Ozil the contract, and now of course the criticism is, well, why did they give it to him? He doesn't deserve it. They should have given it to Sanchez. So I don't feel the club could have won either way. They made a decision maybe, although I actually feel that maybe the decision was out of their hands. You know, as I said before, if Manchester City's wage wasn't enough for Alexis Sanchez, then I very much doubt our offer would have been either. So I don't necessarily blame the club. You know, we're in a situation that we're in. You know, we've got the wages that we offer, and that's it. And if players won't accept it, there's not a lot we can do. You know, Mesut Ozil did accept what we offered him, and we've had to unfortunately live with that decision now. But at the time, you can understand why the club did that, having lost Sanchez. So that's just that there. I mean, I don't expect Sanchez to get a lot of sympathy from anybody else. Maybe it's just me. At the end of the day, you know, he made a bad decision, didn't he? Based on money as opposed to what was best for his career. And obviously he regrets that now quite clearly. These quotes kind of emphasise that even more. And maybe there is a lesson there for other players, maybe younger players as well, when it comes to negotiating contracts, when it comes to looking at your next move. Sometimes if you're happy at a club, you know, maybe this is something for Aubameyang to look at as well. Bearing in mind, of course, Aubameyang did arrive at a club in that same window that Alexis went. And suddenly now we're in a similar kind of position in a way with Aubameyang, aren't we? With him offering him a new contract, which we did with Alexis Sanchez. He seems a lot happier, let's be fair, and it looks more likely that he will sign it. And you know, maybe that just goes to show that, you know, there's a possibility Aubameyang could possibly get a better deal at another club. But if you're happy, if you're playing well, you're being successful, winning, obviously just won trophies with us, sometimes that should maybe become a bit more important sometimes. And I think maybe the Alexis Sanchez story maybe emphasises that a little bit, you know, and hopefully other players can learn from that mistake that maybe Alexis has made, and in future maybe players that are happy will stay at a club, maybe even if they could potentially get more money somewhere else and it not work out and not play. So that's that. So let me know what you think about all that. I'll say I don't expect Alexis will get much sympathy from many of you, and that's fine. Let me know what you think about that, and also as well, let me know what you think about the whole situation of the Mesut Ozil contract as well. It is obviously tied into this, isn't it, as well? I guess if Sanchez had stayed, maybe they would have let Ozil go, for example. But just let me know what you think about that as well. I do think it's quite a good subject for debate, actually, isn't it? And I think this now with the quotes that's come out from Alexis has made it even more interesting. So that's that for now. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, please click on the subscribe button. As I say, I am trying to be a little bit more positive, give a little bit more positive spin on some of the stories that's coming out from the club. And also as well, something else that I do is, you can tell by the name of the channel, it's got a very retro theme to it as well. I do look back at old matches of past players, profiles of careers of players and stuff like that, and just look back at some great games, some of my own experiences as well. And also as well, I do throw in occasionally the odd live guest. I've already had former Arsenal player Mark Flats on the channel. Last night I had Tom Watt on the channel, of course. That was a fantastic show. If you haven't seen that yet, please check it out on the channel as well. And also follow me on social media over and over and over again. I've got a Facebook page, which I hope you'll like. There's a link to it in the description down below. And you can also find me on Twitter. It's at GoonerRichB as well, which is all, not only it's my own personal Twitter, but it's mainly linked to the channel as well. So that's that for today. I hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned to the channel. There's lots more great stuff coming up as we move into the new season as well, which of course starts a week tomorrow, isn't it? Crikey. Coming around quick, isn't it? So so that's that. And I say look out for some great stuff coming up soon. And of course, in the meantime, we always end the same way on this channel. If you don't know, you'll soon get used to it. So that's that for now. And of course, in the meantime, come on, you Gunners!